I'm sure we've already got that. Hi, this is Ken Gidge. This is Gidge World for now. Things will be changing. Long stories taking place. It's all absolutely crazy. But I have a couple stories to tell that are rather embarrassing, and I feel that I've got to get it out because if this goes public, if this gets in the newspaper, and I don't tell you what happened, honestly what happened, then I guess, well, I could get in a lot of trouble. So let's get over to my partner in crime, who is Dave Robbins.
Ken,
how are you?
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. And you are the Republican.
I am.
And I am the Democrat.
You are, and I just want to, when you're talking about, we'll introduce him in just a second. But when you're talking about getting into trouble,
yes,
I wonder where that hand has been.
What does that mean?
Well, we just shook hands. I don't know. You were talking about trouble and everything.
Oh, for God's sake!
This is who is this lad here?
This is what you get for Republicans.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? Who is this lad?
This is Socrates. Socrates is a very important character. Now, he's between us because we need wisdom, and occasionally you and I have nothing wise to say.
Well, I would differ with that. I think that you are most often a wise something or other.
Yes, but you would differ. What's the word differ means?
Well, differ means I think you're nuts. Now, and I think Bumpy and I are going to prove it tonight.
It's not Bumpy. This is Socrates.
This is Bumpy. He's got a bump right here.
So what? It's Socrates, for God's sake. He was a stonecutter.
All right.
All right. I got to tell you what happened. Now, I'm late getting here, as you know. I was a little late getting here. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had taken a shower. And by the way, the light went out in the bathroom. My hair okay?
Your hair looks wonderful.
All right, there's not much of it. So
I'm having a real hard time imagining you in the shower.
All right, well, you're going to imagine this. All right, so so I run out, and I have underwear that looks like, like a tight bathing suit. In other words, it's not boxers. And all I can say is that when the dog sees me like that, he goes like this. Okay, he hides his face. All right,
mm-hmm.
So I'm looking, I got the shirt and I got the jacket. I can't find the pants.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that the pants are in the car, and the car's in the driveway because I got them from the cleaners. Okay? So so I'm standing next to the door, and the car's 20 feet away, and I'm in my boxer shorts. And straight across, we'll call her the Queen, all right? Really nice person, extremely religious. But if she looked out her window, she could not see my door, the one I wanted to go out, because of a tree. In my next door neighbor to the right, there is sort of like some trees and bushes, so she can't see me. So all I wanted to do is run out, get the pants out of the back seat, and run back in, but I'd be in my underwear.
Which doesn't look like underwear. It looks like...
No, right. So, so I look. I could see her. She's in her kitchen, but she's, she can't see me. The other one can't see me at all. So I run out, and it's raining a little, so I close the porch door, and I run out to the car, and the car door is locked. Oh, God. So I look over, and the lady who was in the kitchen window comes out. She starts coming towards our property line. She does gardening and stuff like that. I'm in my underwear. So I run to the porch, and the porch door is locked. And the only thing there is a window that's about 5, 6 feet up. And there's the dog. He's, sitting there like this. Now you got yourself in a position. So I pushed open the screen, and I climbed on the mailbox, which the mailbox broke. And as I'm going through the window, my underwear gets caught on the nail. And as I'm trying to climb through, it's pulling my underwear down, right? Moon over Nashua, right? And the lady who was in her kitchen but now is at the property line starts laughing and goes, "Kenny, now I've seen everything." So I'm embarrassed, okay? I mean, it wasn't, how do you explain that? You got your rear end, your bottom sticking out. So, all right, so now I'm late, I'm running, I'm crazy. So I get in the car and I pull out of the driveway, and there at the end of the street She is. We'll call her Pam. And the lady across the street, and when they see me pull up, they start laughing. So, of course, I know what they're laughing about because she called the neighbor, and now they're out there, and they're talking about my bottom. So I pull the car up to them, and I go, "Hi, ladies," and they're laughing. So I go, "Hey, you've seen mine." She goes, "It'll be a cold day in hell when you see my bottom." And I said, "The difference between your bottom and my bottom is I can get my bottom through the window," of which I drove away. Now, there's several things you do not do. You do not tell a woman, right, that she's got a big bottom.
That's true.
Well, so anyway, now I'm in trouble. Now, that's got to be in the top 2 most embarrassing things that's ever happened to me. How about you?
Well, a couple of things occur to me. One of them is at least you were getting your best face forward.
Oh.
And the second thing is that we are very close to the Nashua Police Department.
That's right.
And I would be very, very concerned if I were you that there might be a gentleman or lady with a badge on after we get through with this program who wants to talk to you about
my ass sticking out of the window?
Well, about exposing inappropriate parts to the light of day.
Anyway, okay, so that's what happened to me. Look, we got a lot of things to talk about.
Why don't you lead us out?
No. Give me an embarrassing thing. What hasn't been embarrassing? Do you have anything close to what happened to me?
I do. I have.
All right,
I have something,
go.
and it's something that's gone on several times.
All right. Okay. Now, I gave a Democrat story. Your turn.
All right. Part of the problem for me is that I've been doing this show for 5 or 6 weeks, and this is one of the most embarrassing things to be here that I can possibly think about.
Embarrassing to be here?
Embarrassing. I mean, what do I tell the people that I live with?
You mean hanging around with me? Is that embarrassing?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
If that's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you, you haven't had much of a life.
Well,
that
goes without saying. Let's move from this. We can get back to
move from this.
Move from this. What's been going on this week?
Well, we must give credit where credit is due. You agree?
I agree. Giving credit. Yeah.
So on the front page of the Union Leader, and by the way, when people see this, it's going to be a long time away. On the front page of the paper, politicians grilled on silver skillet. Okay, right there, yeah. See that? Everybody can see that. Now, this is Silver, right? Representative Silver.
Without the R.
All right, and he's got a cooking show called Silver Skillet.
Yeah.
Or Silver's Skillet.
Right.
And he has the mayor of the city of Nashua on. Now, we'll show her picture. We've got to get her picture in there, too. Okay, what? Oh, the obituaries, that won't do. Anyway, she's there someplace. Let me find out. Okay. Do I have the right paper? Stop it. Someone's making a lot of noise in the background. Anyway, the mayor is with him on the Silver Skillet.
Yep.
All right? Now, last time he...
last page 14, right in the
Page
back.
14, see?
Do you have... I don't think you've got page 14.
There we go. Yeah, it's right in the back.
Well, you're showing it to me.
Well, excuse me?
There we go. Okay.
All right. So there's...
You got your hand over the face.
Well, you're very irritating tonight. You know that? Of course, you know you're trying to do anything that you can do simply because, boy, the Republicans screwed up this week. Okay. Anyway, Silver Skillet. All right. And by these are 2 Republicans, by the way. Now, last time we talked about Silver, who, he invites everyone to his house to eat but me.
Yep, you didn't get invited.
I didn't get invited. But maybe I'm not a Republican, but we have to have some, I'm a talk show host like him. But maybe it's because we reported last time that he was cooking pigeons.
I do remember something about that.
That's right. He was cooking pigeons last time, and I was wondering how we got the pigeons. Now he's with the mayor, and you know what they're cooking?
What?
Frog's legs.
No.
Yes. How do they get the frog's legs? Have you ever had frog's legs?
I have had them once, and like most of those things, they taste like chicken.
Did it taste like pigeons?
It
tastes like pigeon.
Could be.
And you would never know unless you've had pigeon.
That's true.
That's true. Okay,
That's true.
so anyway, we're really happy that somebody from this area, especially this, gets a show. All right, and I think the pigeons were really chicken, but I really think it was frog legs that they were cooking. But we did want to give him credit. All right, and he fibs. He makes a statement like, well, I get people to eat food and then they talk more. I got a question. If you were invited to a staunch Democrat's house, and they were feeding you, unless it was funny food they were feeding you, would you give up all your Republican secrets?
Now, a couple of things I do. One of them is I'd make sure that somebody else tasted the food first.
Ah.
The second thing is, unfortunately, I make noises when I eat.
You do?
I do.
What type of noises?
Well, I make noises while I eat sometimes, and then after I eat sometimes. And
what noises are they?
Well, my wife tells me that I smack my lips sometimes. And,
well, how do you like? Well,
I would have to ask her, but
no. You smack your lips.
Sort of.
Why?
I don't know why. And I crunch on
It's one
things.
good thing about having you on here.
What's that?
It's because you're homelier than I am.
And
you smack your lips.
I do apparently.
Any other noises? Gas or?
Yes.
You have to think about it. So that was the other noise.
That was one of the other noises.
You can't eat without gas.
Well, not all the time, but it's just if I were invited to somebody's house, I would not probably want to be eating on television.
So you don't.
It would not be. It would not be a pleasant sight.
Beano. Have you tried that? I mean, if you're.
I've heard of it. I haven't tried.
You haven't. Well, do you take Gas X or something?
No.
So you just go out to eat and leave gas, make gassy noises.
I'm a natural kind of guy.
So I know. So a person who goes out and is natural. Well, I don't. Okay. All right. This is the Telegraph today, by the way, and we're going to change the subject just a little. Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right, because this has to do with food, and I'm highly upset at the Republicans. And you are on the executive committee
of the county, Hillsborough County. Yes.
Yes, and I am also. Were you there Wednesday?
I was there Wednesday when the commissioners, the three commissioners, presented their budget. Yes.
Okay.
What piqued you? Something must have piqued you. What piqued you about that?
Well, let me tell you. Do we have a $12 million? There's $12 million. We have $12 million extra dollars this year, don't we?
Well, not this year. We have a reserve fund or surplus that's hovering somewhere around $12 million.
Oh, so that's surplus.
Well, a
surplus means more.
More, yes.
More.
More. In other words, it's like it's sitting in a bank account. It's not more than we take in, but it is something that is accrued.
Excuse me, we've had.
Now let me finish. Now, hold on. Surpluses. It is something that has accrued and been set aside.
No. No.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no. That's been that way. They, in fact, it was at one time 23 million, all right? 12 million is a surplus, which is added to every year. It was as much as 18 million, I believe, this year, and they took 4 million out.
And in other words, it's going down because more surplus, more of that money is being used to cover the county budget each year than is going back into it. But go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm not sure if you even want to be involved with this because I think this is pretty bad. I really do. This is the budget. See here.
What have the county commissioners done?
This is not fight. Well, no. It's you Republicans that have done this.
It's the county commissioners.
No, it's the Republicans.
No, this is the county commissioners.
Well, they're talking about the Republicans right here. It says. Budget plan defunds Meals on Wheels.
And look at the sub-headline. What does it say here? It says county commissioners hold hearing on spending proposal on their budget.
So wait a minute. Do the county commissions make the budget, or do we?
The county commissioners propose. They make the budget, and we change it on a line item basis.
Excuse me.
This is the proposed budget.
This is done by the Republicans.
No, it isn't. This is done by the three county commissioners.
You gotta be joking.
At the moment,
wait a minute. We had this big argument about before that they wanted to defund the whole thing, and this was done through our committee. We're the ones who started defunding it, taking money out of it. $63,000 we're taking out.
For what?
Meals on Wheels.
Oh, okay. That's so in other words, what you're talking about is the budget that the commissioners proposed defunds Meals on Wheels and takes out $60,000 plus.
Wait a minute. We don't have time to read this all, okay? The commissioners don't do this.
The commissioners make the budget. They propose the budget.
Okay? We do this.
All right.
We're the ones.
So
So wait a minute.
Have we voted on it? Have we voted on it?
Not yet, but
okay,
this
so
is
we
the
haven't
proposal.
Has it been, but who proposed it?
What do you mean who proposed it? You Republicans are the ones who beat the hell out of it last year, down to $63,000. $63,000.
The county commissioners make up a budget proposal and present it to the executive council. That's the way the law reads.
No, hold on a second.
The county commissioners have.
Okay, you're not going to get away. You're not going to get away with it.
Will you quiet down for a second and give me a minute to get a word in edgewise?
I will read it then.
You read it while I'm talking. The county commissioners propose a budget. We get to look at it after they propose it, and then we go through it and we either agree or disagree, and if we disagree, we make line item changes.
Okay, the purpose of the hearing was to gather input on a proposed fiscal 2013 budget that would cut $63,450.
Okay.
Republicans?
No. In fact, several Republicans spoke against it.
No, wait a minute. Excuse me.
Several Republicans spoke against
like who?
this. Phil Griazzo.
Is he on the commission? Is he with us?
Yeah.
He is? Okay.
He's a Republican from Manchester.
Right.
Jim Belanger, who's a Republican from Hollis, and there were one or two other legislators that were Republican, I believe, who got up
David,
and spoke against this.
David, I'll tell you what. You guys spoke against it. The Democrats spoke not to do it last time. It passed by just a little. They have defunded it. You want to defund it again, and this is Republicans, not Democrats. And I'll tell you what, this is something for us to argue about, but I'll tell you something, David. You want to know something? We'll come back here and we will see. You guys did it last year.
If it was defunded last year, why are they talking about defunding it this year? That
implies taking it all out.
Well, was it taken all out last year?
Yeah, it was, and then we have to fight to put it back in.
So in other words, it wasn't taken out last year. It went through the process, and there was money for Meals on Wheels.
This is exactly the problem. It's politicians. Yeah, I mean, he's very good. I like the guy, and he doesn't want to defund this. I know he doesn't, but and I'm sorry that I'm saying that you're the Republican Party, but it's kind of like back and forth, Democrat, Republican. That's why this thing, if it works this way. You must understand, 1,700 people a day get Meals on Wheels.
Yeah.
A very small, I think it's 12% that it's done out of St. Joe's Hospital in Manchester. It's a very, very big place that does it. 1,700 meals. I think the budget from us is 12%. All right. In other words, the 60-something thousand is 12% of their budget. Meals on Wheels budget.
So that even in the unlikely event that the county does not contribute toward this, that is only a relatively small part of their funding.
Oh, yes. Okay, so 12.
It's about 1/8.
Okay, so 12%, they would probably take 250 people off Meals on Wheels?
Unless they got another source of funding, if that were to happen.
I see. Well, this is kind of an awful subject, and I don't want to toss it upon you, but if you remember last time when we were up there fighting to have it put back in, yes, it was Republicans who did it because there was only 3 out of how many executive councils are there?
There are 21 people, I think, on the executive committee. I think there are 4 Democrats.
24.
I think there are 4 Democrats.
There's 3.
Are there?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see if we've got this straight. There's 24.
No, 21.
There's 21.
I think there are 21
I thought you said
total.
24.
No, I think there are 21 total.
21 total.
And I think out of that,
There's 3 of us.
there are only 3 of you?
There's just 3 of us.
Okay.
So there you go. They're the ones who are doing this because they can get away with it. And you guys were the ones who also got rid of the social workers. 5.5 social workers for $441,000. And they proved that they saved the state $1.5 million and...
No, they didn't prove that they saved the state $1.5 million.
Oh, they
But
don't?
that's a good issue to come back on. Do you know that in this budget, last year there was $4 million in stimulus funding that we got from the federal government for the county budget?
You mean you took it because it was Obamacare money?
I didn't take it, it was already there. However, this year, that money's gone. So no matter what happens, just to keep the same funding level as we had last year, at the very, very least, we have to come up with $4 million from somewhere. And you know what? Next year, it's likely to be even more. In other words, this necessity to come up with money.
Except that you're
So
not telling these people that you have a $12 million surplus.
And what happens is you use the surplus judiciously so that you don't have to raise taxes by 6 or 7% in a year. It may be that you have a gradual raise of 1% or 2, and you use the surplus to balance things out.
When was the last time taxes were raised?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Taxes were raised.
The county tax, I believe. I'm not sure.
Raised.
They were not raised last year.
They weren't raised the year before.
Okay.
And they weren't raised the year before that. It's not necessary to raise it because we happen to be a rich county.
Now,
okay?
you say that
we have enough money, and for you to
turn
around and let the people believe that there is no money for Meals on Wheels is wrong.
I'm not saying there's no money for Meals on Wheels.
Oh, I see.
I'm not saying I'm going to defund it.
Oh no, I don't expect you will. I don't think your voters will let you do that.
How much was the surplus 3 or 4 years ago?
23 million?
Okay, so 3 or 4 years ago, the surplus was 23 million. Now it's down to 12 million. Let's see, in 4 years, if we spent $11 million out of the surplus and shrank it, and if we kept doing that at the same rate, in 4 years, we wouldn't have any surplus left.
Let me see. And in that period of time, how many people would die from not, A, getting food? And by the way, the people who are Meals on Wheels, what they do is they knock on the door and they make sure the individual's there to accept it. So what you're saying is that money is far more important than people.
What I'm saying is that money is a resource and it has to be allocated the best way you can.
You know, it's really fascinating that the reason why the money was there in the first place was because of the Democrats. Okay, we were in charge, obviously, for a short period of time. So money? That's the reason why. That's the reason why in the county budget, we're the ones who brought it. But you know, got the surplus. Question: do you care? I mean, you're acting as if money is so important that people aren't.
What I realize is that money is the way that government implements priorities.
So priority is what? Number one priority is not caring for those who can't care for themselves?
Oh no, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that just as a function, spending money is the way that government implements its priorities. Okay, so what are the priorities of government?
So will you right here to the camera say that you not only will vote to make sure the 63,000, but add a little?
No.
You won't vote to keep the $63,000?
No, what I'm saying is I won't commit to it right now because I haven't looked at the whole budget.
Oh, I see. Now wait a minute. What you're saying is that you will not for the Meals on Wheels as a Republican, you will not commit to keeping the $63,000 for the people on Meals on Wheels?
Let me get a front camera.
You got a camera.
Yeah, I will not commit to making a specific budget vote right now until I take a look at the budget, we go through the budget process, and I feel as though I'm fully informed on that.
Well, I think that I can say I will make sure that the Meals on Wheels people and the people who need food will get it. And if we have to cut it from somewhere else, I don't have to see the budget to say that. Guess what? We must care for those who are having a hard time to care for themselves. And if you can't turn and say that you guarantee that you will do that, then I'm disappointed in you.
Well, Ken, I think what you've touched on is a basic difference between the two of us.
Republicans and Democrats?
No, you and me.
Oh, okay.
And perhaps Republicans and Democrats, but I'm just thinking about you and me. You take a stand, no matter what the reasonableness or rationality, and say, I'm going to commit to doing this. I hope, the integrity to admit that I don't have all of the answers. I want to go through the process. I want to see what's presented. I want to hear what different people say. And I don't.
So there's an opportunity you would vote against it.
There's an opportunity. Yeah, it's possible.
I can't believe that. I think of all the things that you and I have done and what you've said, I think that surprises me the most.
Really?
Yeah, and the simple reason for this is that if you think taking food away from people without finding the money someplace else is okay, and you can't say that you're not going to fight for it, I'm a little disappointed.
Well, you know what? You just touched on something, and this
Here
is
we
one.
go.
This is
the
one
difference between the Republicans and Democrats.
No, this is the difference between you and me.
Okay.
See, you're asking me to say, I demand, David, right now that you take a stand on this, and I'm saying I want to go through the process. Now,
is it necessary?
Yes, it is, and I'll tell you why.
It's necessary. Excuse me, $12 million. I think that's almost interest for the $12 million in a year, or less.
What you said, if it was taking food away, what happens if we get a grant from another source that covers this? What happens if Meals on Wheels gets a grant? What happens if money comes in from another source so that it doesn't come out of the taxpayer's budget? Would you still want me to? Would you still want me to vote for that?
I believe that the people who are getting Meals on Wheels have been taxpayers, have built the roads, fought the wars, raised the children, built the schools, and probably are, in a sense, guess what? Put the station up and let us go back and forth and argue. You're under the impression they don't count. They're not paying their fair share.
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm asking you is, if the $60,000 came from another source, should I still vote for an additional $60,000?
I would say after cutting, no, I'm not going to fall into that trap. Okay, a lot of ifs. We know what's going to happen.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we know what's going to happen if the
we don't.
$63,000 is not there. You're saying, oh, wait a minute, hold on. There's a good possibility that the ferry might come down and drop off $60,000.
I'm not saying anything. I'm asking you a straightforward question. I'm saying, if we know that money comes from different sources in different ways.
No. We know it's not coming. That's what we know right now. So I'm saying to you, if you think it's coming, all right, then why don't you look at the camera and say, hey, don't worry about it. I'm going to make sure they're going to keep the $63,000. St. Joe's will not have to worry. The people who serve 1,700 meals a day are not going to have to worry, and the people who get the 1,700 meals, that's probably 1,700 people. Or do they get 2 meals a day?
It's what the statistic was. I think it cost $2,500 per person per year for Meals on Wheels. That was the statistic that was released at the hearing.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what the.
No. It wasn't 2,500.
No, 2,500.
2,500 a year.
Ken, I was there. You weren't.
All right. Okay. So are you trying to tell me 1,700 times 2,500 is their budget?
That's all I can tell you is they said that it costs about $2,500 a year to provide Meals on Wheels, to fully provide for one person.
For one person.
I
think you're wrong. I think you're wrong.
So let's
okay,
just say
if it
is what's 16 or 1700 times 2500? I don't know.
Well, I think if $63,000 is 12% of their budget, that's probably an easier way of looking at it. So if it's, let's say it's 10%, 10 times 63, I think you're wrong. I think it's less than 2,500 a year.
All right.
Because,
go ahead.
all right, because all the people who do this do it for free. I'm not sure if they get gas. I don't know. They bring the meals, they pick them up.
Yeah. All I can do is relay what the folks at the hearing, who were the folks in the organization, said, and I have to leave it at that. I can't independently.
Well, it's disappointing. I'm disappointed in you. And this is no offense, but I'm not talking to you directly. But this is the Republican Party. Well, something could happen. But if I remember correctly, that $4,000 that you brought up earlier was called Obama money.
$4 million.
And nobody wanted to keep it, but gee, we kept it.
Well,
didn't we give back 4.1 for rail? That's Republicans. And wasn't it $660,000 we gave back? Republicans. $331,000 we gave back to the government. What is this?
Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, they know. They understand.
Let's see. What are you talking about?
Oh, God, okay. All right. We'll move on then.
All right, really good.
But I am just disappointed.
Well, no, let's move on.
I want
Let's move
the
on.
people. All right, okay, what do you got?
Let's move on. We hear a lot about this redress of grievance panel.
Oh, you sent me that information.
I did.
And a lot of it.
I did. I'm sure you read every single word.
I got a question. Where did you send it from?
I sent it from the State House.
And the State House paid for it?
The State House paid for it.
$5.40 something.
Was that how much it was? Yeah.
So you, instead of calling me and or dropping it off, you spent the state money of $5.40 something cents?
If that's what the postage was.
Yeah. Well, I won't argue with that because I think that's fair. I think representatives should have that information. And thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Is the State House Postal Police going to be waiting for me when I?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's okay.
All right.
You can send stuff like that.
A lot of information in the press on the redress of grievance panel, and there is a lot of information out there which says this is an awful thing. This is something that the Republicans are using to go on a witch hunt, and that we should do away with it. What do you think?
What do I think?
What do you think?
I'm going to have a cigarette.
I think that's a wonderful thing. Well.
You talk while I have a cigarette.
Well, Ken has a cigarette. What kind of cigarette?
It's a funny. It's Nicorette gum.
Do you?
Do you know why?
Why?
I took it. I was doing a radio show with a gentleman named Ed Leishus, and I only had an hour a week. And I kept saying, well, why don't you give me more time? I mean, I've been here for 3 years. I mean, I'm learning. He said, if you quit smoking, I'll give you a show. I quit smoking.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Now, I've met Ed. He works for the police department, or used to anyway.
Yes, Ed said he made one mistake in broadcasting, and it was me.
Well,
I have verification to that. That's right. Oh, can I tell you a story about getting fired? I got fired from every radio show. I got to tell you a story about Ed Leishus. This is kind of funny. He wanted me to interview a guest. So I said, okay, Ed, I will interview. I didn't mind because that's kind of my job. They'd throw me guests. So he says, I don't want you to give her a hard time. I promise you this time, if you give her a hard time, I'm going to fire you. I said, Ed, it's a lady. She's a school teacher. My wife says, I'm not going to give her a hard time. Okay. So we're sitting down, and I know what he wants. He doesn't want me to mention his name and her being a school teacher because she was his school teacher. Okay? Oh. But there was other things she wanted to talk about.
Right.
So I said, okay, so now you got to remember, we're in a studio, and it's like here she sits, and we got microphones and in our face, and here she sits, and so I'm being nice. I'm asking her about the project she's working on, and I said, and to finish a sentence and Ed was your student, and I couldn't finish the sentence because she started jumping in and started telling Ed Leishus jokes. or Alicia's, little Eddie, she called him.
Little Eddie.
Little Eddie, okay, which I could feel the eyes burning on the back of my head, and I said, well, I'm trying to move on to another subject, okay? And she's now animated talking about little Eddie, and I'm going like, please, please. So we come to a break, and there's a knock on the studio door, and Ed goes, come with me. So he takes me out to the outer office. He says, you're fired. I'm going to be back in 1 hour. I want you out of here, and I never want to see you again. So I'm going, huh? So I run out to the elevator with him, and I said, Ed, we're on commercial. I have about 30 seconds to get back. And it dawned on him that we were doing a radio show. Although, okay, so he told me to get back there, at least to finish the show. But so I got fired, but he rehired me on the spot. So that's a time that I was fired for about 60 seconds. I got my job back. That's probably might be a record.
That could be a record, and I'll be aware of that and look for my job back if I get fired here.
You won't get fired. He won't get fired here. They don't pay us anything.
It's like the legislature.
Wait a minute. Sounds like the legislature. Wait a minute. We're used to doing this. We get paid nothing.
Hey, redress of grievances.
Okay,
I've heard you talk about this, and you're not entirely complimentary.
No, I'm not.
What do you think about this committee?
Well, explain to the people out there what it is. It is that a person or people may come to make a motion or put something before the committee.
Well, if I may, it's a committee of the House to consider petitions of redress pursuant to an article in the Constitution which says that citizens can ask for redress before the House of Representatives, and citizens are supposed to clearly and succinctly state their grievance and a proposed legislative remedy. This is not specifically designed in most cases to right a perceived wrong.
It's not legal. All we're doing basically is listening.
It's sort of like an expanded hearing, in a sense.
An expanded hearing, and if we see something in there that we don't like, then there's a possibility we change it.
By proposing legislation.
By proposing legislation.
Yeah, that's essentially it.
The problem with this, okay, and now I believe Kevin Abad is either on it or has talked to a lot of these people. And from what I understand, it is quite impelling, some of the stories that they have. But the problem is it's only one side of the story. And the reason there's only one side of the story is a lot of these people who work for the government, for child services, etc., by law cannot say anything. So what happens is you hear these awful stories, but there's absolutely no way to confirm them. But because Kevin brings them on, and that's fine, I understand that. I think that's fair. It's good, selling TV. But bringing them on and hearing these stories are awful. But when you hear the other side of a story, and of which I've heard the other side of some of these stories, of which I can't tell you, and because we're state representatives, we not necessarily can get inside information, but we get a little bit more. And hearing some of these stories, especially when it comes to child, et cetera, there's some of the stories they don't want to get out. So a lot of these people are going before these hearings knowing that the state can't say anything, all right? Not that they're not important. This is not important. But when you get the Attorney General who turns around and says, hey, guess what? There's no way these people can fight against these accusations because they're sworn to secrecy.
Ken, I am shocked, and I'll tell you why I'm shocked. You're being absolutely reasonable and rational about this. I could have said much the same thing that you just said.
And you're shocked because I'm reasonable and rational?
Yes, I am. I mean, I think that was a
I'm
pretty...
shocked that you're a Republican and feel that way.
Well,
because it was the Republicans, by the way, and just
Okay.
because this is Democrat-Republicans.
Here we come. We're
Because
going back into it.
because you're a Republican, it's the Republicans who brought this. And in fact, brought regress back. Now, don't you or the regress committee have subpoena power?
Actually, the way it's set up, every committee has the subpoena power or the potential for subpoena power that the Redress of Grievances Committee has. Redress of grievance. In other words, what committee are you on?
Rick, I'm Commerce.
Commerce Committee can follow the same process. In other words, there is a process that was put in with checks and balances to allow for requesting a subpoena. Commerce could do the same thing. It's not just limited to redress of grievances.
Well, I can't see why another committee would want to do that.
Well,
the bill was designed for this committee. It wasn't designed for all the committees.
But it is applicable.
I know
it
is
is applicable to all the committees.
Hold on a second. It was designed for this particular committee. Okay.
I
So now,
believe. You know what? I would. I think that's the case. I would agree to that.
wow.
I would agree.
I'm shocked.
See here, I'm being reasonable.
I'm shocked that you've been educated. Of course, you're giving me such a hard time most of the time.
I know. Let me, if I may, just take
I want
to set this up for our.
Just to finish this
Yeah.
up.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, finish this up. Now they're going to have the subpoena power to subpoena people who are subpoenaed and will sit down in front of the committee, who are sworn by law not to talk about anything to do with their business, like childcare or the institutions. Now, what good is this now? To bring someone up before a state worker, who I'm sure all state workers attempt to do good, to bring a state worker up and badger them because they can't fight back?
I can respond to that.
You can.
I can.
And you got the time.
All right. Thank you. One of the things that's coming up is the Redress of Grievance Committee is getting folks coming up and saying the judiciary did a number on me, technical term. The judiciary took away my child. The state Health and Human Services took away my child. We've gone through the courts. We can't get any satisfaction. My former spouse won't let me see my child. It's been 5 years. Some of those things are coming up for redress of grievance. The committee, as I understand it, listens to these and then, for example, might go to the Department of Health and Human Services and say, here's a situation. In a situation like this, what kind of procedures do you normally follow? Not asking specifics about an individual.
Who's doing this?
Let me just finish.
I know, but who's doing this?
Let me just. This is
the committee who's doing this?
The committee who's asking Health and Human Services,
okay,
not for specifics about this particular case,
but how the process works.
But how does your process normally work? Because this person is telling us that, as far as the published regulations are concerned, they weren't followed. So how are there different regulations or what? And the State Department of Health and Human Services is saying, we're not going to talk with you. We're not going to answer anything. We're not going to send anything.
Well, I don't think that they would hold back how the process works. I think the process is quite clear. I'm sure you can find it in writing how it works.
That's part of the concern, because apparently the process is written, and yet the outcomes in some of these cases appear to go entirely against what the process is written.
They appear to. But
and I think that's important, appear to.
Well, that's important, and I've heard some of these stories, and some of these stories are just awful. First of all, I think when a family gets divorced, which is horrible, as a mother and father, and many times the father is equal certainly to what the mother does as a family, as a parent, and then you can get your son or daughter every other weekend, and all of a sudden the father is completely taken out of the picture. This is, and I'm for the man thing, enough. Let us win a few here. And I've heard some pretty awful stories, and these are true, that when there is a divorce, very rarely it's, dual custody where the kids can go back and forth or stay at one parent's house. And that's sad. That's really sad. I mean, us guys love our kids. We do as much, like I always tell my wife, I was more pregnant than you were, and I've worried more about our son than she does, and it's true. So if something happened between us when he was a child, I'd be heartbroken.
Yep.
And this is what happens a lot.
Yep.
So I think that law's got to change. So now you guys go after the judges.
That's an interesting question, because a couple of these, there are 27 bills of redress currently for over the 2-year period. 16 of them appear to involve child custody, judicial custody, health and human service, welfare issues.
So there's judges.
11 of them are on other things like property taxes, this, that, and the other things. So about 60% of them involve health and human services or the judiciary or child custody or parenting
Got
plans.
So are you going to think of subpoenaing judges?
I don't think that's possible. I certainly don't think that's appropriate. I mean, you can't. They are a separate branch of the government, and I don't know whether that would be held up.
Well, who are you going to subpoena?
One of the things that
who are they going to subpoena?
I think the big thing in this is that if and the process requires 3 or 4 different levels.
Okay. While you're talking,
Yep.
Yes.
it's a good time for you to think about inviting Kevin Avard and interviewing him.
Right. Bring Kevin Avard on?
I think that's a wonderful
well,
idea.
he's boring.
I think
for
it-
God's sakes. He's to bring Kevin
You're
Avard on.
saying
And
some-
by the
some
way,
correct
this is what we want. We want bring
You're
Kevin
saying
Avard.
some correct stuff, Dave.
Yep.
And you're saying some correct stuff, but you're both saying
Kevin
some
Avard's
incorrect stuff.
Kevin Avard's the best guy to
He's on the committee. And
probably do it.
This is what Richard. Thank you. This
Yeah,
is
thanks, Richard. But I don't.
we'll
we got I think. Well, hold on a second. Excuse me, Richard. He's in the control room. He can hear us. Hello, Richard. Hey, Richard. How about Kevin Avard inviting us on?
Oh, if you want to be on his show.
Yeah. Excuse me. What? Who are we?
maybe we could do a crossover episode.
No, what do you mean crossover episode? For God's sakes! I mean, yeah. No. Let's invite Kevin. He's got 2 shows. He's doing
right.
2 shows.
Well, we can. I think that having somebody with more expertise in this is
I
a
beg
good
your
idea.
pardon.
Is a good
All right.
idea.
Well, let us. Wait a minute. Why weren't we in session this week? You're a Republican.
Why weren't we?
Well, we weren't in session this week because our great Speaker of the House is having a battle with the Senate. So what he did is he tabled how many bills?
I believe it was it 6?
Which means they don't go back to the Senate. Well, they're supposed to go back to the Senate. We're supposed to work on them. They're supposed to go back to the Senate. Okay. So the Senate is being held up. So for 1 week, our great leader, Speaker of the House, who, by the way, and the Telegraph is doing a 4-part series on him, and it's not making him look too good.
It's also not making him look too bad.
Now, but what we're saying is it's keeping 400 people, meaning us, right, instead of working. It is stopping basically the government, the 2 branches of government, or I should say the Senate and the legislature, stopping them completely. There's not much anybody can do. Nobody's doing anything. And this basically is costing the state of New Hampshire probably a lot of money. Because wasn't there a loss of $3 million just by doing this? Wasn't there some loss of $3 million because if we had one of those bills running, I know there's a loss of some money there.
There's one bill allegedly that if it isn't passed at some point in the near future, could result in the loss of money, but has not resulted in the loss of money up to this point.
So there might be also a time on this bill. In other words, 60 days after or a year after, et cetera. So if it's like 60 days after and we need the money and 40 days, we're screwed.
Well, Ken, that I don't know. I'm just telling you what I've heard. But what I do hear you saying is that the state of New Hampshire is best served when the legislature is in session. It's best served when the legislature goes up and does its work. So since Republicans have been doing work for the last 2 years, it's obviously best served when we're in session and doing what we need to be doing. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what we were voted to do, David.
Right.
I believe
Right.
Republican representative, that we were voted to do work, not hold up the Senate or the Senate holding us up, but to do stuff for the people, you know, the people's work, and not doing it because our speaker has upset with the Senate. So he's tabled bills and he's given us a week off. So guess what happens?
Now,
Nobody does anything.
Normally, now, do we meet every Wednesday is a session day?
Session.
Do we meet every Wednesday during the year?
Most of the time, yes.
So,
Very rarely we
so
don't.
July, August,
No.
September, October.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Okay.
No, we get a couple, months off. But I'm on a committee, so I'll be working this summer. I'm on a study committee, so I'll be working this summer. I don't have any time off.
Right.
And rerunning for, again, the position.
Isn't it actually true that there are probably no more than 15 or 20 formal session days during the year?
What's your point?
Well, my point is that there is rarely a month when we have a session day in each week, even in January, February, and March.
Excuse me.
So that
how many double days have we had this year?
We've had a couple
Yeah.
to get over, but
so will because of holding this up, will we have a double or a triple day coming up?
I doubt it, because the double days or triple days usually are when there are specific deadlines. The people who are doing most of the work now are in the Senate, because the House has a majority of bills. We've passed those on to the Senate. Right now, the House
the Senate is sending it back to in our committee, Commerce. We've got bills coming from the Senate.
All right. We only got in Child and Family Services. We only got 2 or 3 bills from the Senate.
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
God, Commerce is I think the busiest or the second busiest. We've got probably 70 bills this year. And we're not only banking. Boy, I'll tell you, it's an important position to have someone from Nashua in the bank, in commerce banking and insurance, because boy, if you don't watch them, they will do all sorts of awful things. All sorts of awful things.
And when you say they, you mean?
Well, I mean
businesses?
The government, like.
Wait, the government or businesses?
Well, no, not businesses. I'm talking about banking and insurance.
Well, aren't they businesses?
No, well, yes, banking and insurance are businesses, but we are the lawmakers.
Right.
So we're sitting at a different position.
So who is it who's going to do awful things unless?
Well, I'll give you an example. Again, this is coming from the Republicans. Mm-hmm. It seems that in the insurance industry, what has happened is that a lot of people are calling and making appointments to talk about Medicare, then selling a whole bunch of other insurance policies. So last year, the banking department, the insurance department came and said, look, we really need a law simply stating that if you go there to talk about it, that's what you talk about. Mm-hmm. All right? Well, it seems the insurance people, oh, no, we go there, we want to talk about everything. He says, well, that's fine, but there are problems. And I suggested, well, do these people have they given the power of attorney to their children? Do they have guardians? And it seems like it makes no difference. If you give your power of attorney to your children or you're under guardianship, you still can sign and they still can charge you. So when they made this bill 2 years ago, it completely stopped it. Now the insurance people are trying to get rid of that bill. So in comes the lady from the insurance commission. Mm-hmm. And she sits down, and you got to remember, she's in an awful position because it's so political. Here we are political.
She's a lobbyist for the
No,
insurance?
she's not a lobbyist. She
Okay.
works for the Insurance Commission.
Oh, she works for the
Oh,
insurance
yes.
commission. Okay,
Oh, yes.
go ahead.
Oh,
All right.
yes. So behind her, there are people who are against her. There are some people for her. There are lobbyists definitely against her. And some in front of the commission, ours, our commission, are against her. So I just ask a simple question. Is the law working? Everybody's asking these technical stuff, and this is what happens. They ask technical stuff, and it's called muddying the water, and you know what
Yep.
that is. Means you start on one issue and they go someplace else. So I just asked
That's what we've been doing for the last 45 minutes. Okay.
Exactly. So I said, well, is the law working? And she says, yes, the law is working. So in other words, you don't want the law to be taken away. And she couldn't answer that.
So in other words, what you were asking essentially is it broke, with the implication if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Correct. It's not only not broke, it saved a lot of, again, the seniors and people who many times are not sophisticated to understand exactly what's going on.
You know, I'd like to underscore that because I think what you said is very important. Oftentimes, up in Concord, we wrap ourselves around things and we don't ask the simple,
You
straightforward.
mean the muddying the waters?
We muddy the waters.
This is your first term.
This is my first term.
First term.
We don't ask the simple questions like that. Is the process working? Okay, if it's working, why do we want to screw around with it? Well, it might not work, or this, that, and the other thing. I mean, it's.
But you see.
Well, I'm complimenting you. I'm
No,
complimenting
thank
you.
you.
I'm telling you that I think you are doing exactly the right thing, and that more of us should do more of that more often.
But it's the
first, do no harm.
Republicans who brought it in.
That I'm not going to defend that.
I've got to fight. There's 103, as you know, 103, maybe 104 now, Democrats.
You're
the rest
gaining.
are Republicans.
You're gaining slowly.
Yeah, in fact, we're taking, huh?
1 more minute.
1 minute. Okay, anyway, the guy just yelled at us. We got 1 more minute. Give your email address or whatever you'd like to do.
I am Representative David Robbins, and my email address is david.robbins@leg.state.nh.us.
We only have a minute.
That's one of them anyway. I've had a great time. Thanks so much for inviting us into your home, Ken.
Thank you for inviting us into your home. Okay, my name is Ken Gidge.
And who's this?
This is Socrates. He's got a bump on it.
Bumpy, all right.
Okay, my name is Ken Gidge. I am also a state representative. I'm the good guy, Democrat, bad guy, Republican. You can get me. I'm going to give my telephone number. You can get me.
I get him every week.
603-864-9332. Also, Gidge World, which is definitely GidgeWorld.com, is an art website, which is good. I'm also on Facebook, so get on Facebook. I think I'm just started to learn how to Twitter. Is there any other things you can think of that we should be doing? And I had my rear end out the window today, so I mean, is that how we end the show?
Talk about multiple personalities. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
Okay, we'll see you next week.